Hey there, this is Kevin.
Callan.
And this is Katie. This is episode 1 of Hot Rods of the Sky. It's more of an intro of who we are, what our family does, and why we're interesting enough for you to listen to.
My name is Kevin Kimball. I professionally today restore antique airplanes as a continuation of a family business started by my parents, Jim and Jane Kimball. All started as a hobby, passion for old airplanes, and in short, not being able to afford to go out and buy one, so you have to fix it yourself. And my dad can pretty much do anything in any way, shape, or form. So that's where we started. I grew up in it, started around 7 years old, and so that's 50 years ago. And just kind of kept going. And I really enjoy bringing these pieces of history back to life, seeing the customers that own these enjoy them, other people around the world being able to take a look at the airplanes and enjoy and see these pieces of history, which are really aviation art, come back to life and be there for generations to come. Most of what we do will probably last another 100 years. And just about every time we rebuild an airplane and restore an airplane, it's the last time we get to work on it because they last forever. So we're going to be doing a podcast here with my son Callan and my daughter Katie, and it should be a good time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Callan Kimball. I am a A&P mechanic. My dad is Kevin, and my younger sister is Katie. Been working on airplanes my entire life, professionally since about 2004 or 5. During one summer, and just asked if I wanted to work. Started working, and hadn't turned back yet. So, um, well, a pilot. I have a pilot's license. Love airplanes. Love anything about airplanes, big or small. Yeah, just any excuse to fly is a good excuse. So.
Hi, my name is Katie. I am Kevin's daughter and I almost said Callan's brother. I am not Callan's brother, I am Callan's sister.
Well, you were until you were 13.
Yeah, for a few years there, I was Callan's little brother thanks to a very cruel short haircut that for some reason I asked for. But anyway, I am Kevin's daughter and Callan's sister. I don't sadly interact too much with the airplane part of our family as much as I used to. I grew up obviously with Callan and we spent a lot of time at the hangar. He always spent more than me, but I've kind of gone down a little digital marketing career rabbit hole, and the reason I'm here, you might be wondering, is I'm just super into history and stories, and I love learning and everything else, and I think I'm the only one that knows how to use the podcast software, so that's kind of why I'm here. But hopefully I can be some kind of comedic relief, but we shall see.
You did work at the shop. You did work in the family business. You did mention that. You've rib stitched wings. You've done stuff like that. So,
but did she get paid?
I was paid $4 an hour. Thank you very much.
Minimum wage back then.
Yeah. Yeah, back in what day? So, off the top of your head, what are some projects that we're going to cover in this podcast? Because we haven't really planned out all the episodes yet, but what do you, top 5 favorite projects from Kevin? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the Vega that we're working on now for sure. It's just such a historic airplane. We're going to talk about probably the GBZ replica that Jeff Eicher and I built, and I think that's pretty cool, and a lot of people identify with that airplane. And we can talk about some of the airplanes that that were one-off designs that we did, like the McCulloch Coupe, the program we did in a kit plane business, Pitts Model 12, where we developed that into a kit. And we'll probably talk about a boat or two and some engine stuff. So, yeah, it could be a mix.
What are your favorite ones, Callan? Top 3 favorite projects from JKE Works.
Well, I guess the Vega is probably it's definitely the most interesting, I think, that we've done that I can remember. Just because of – it's just like a never-ending dig. You turn the page and like, oh crap, now we have to figure out how to do this, or where does this go? So it's kind of a interesting thing, um, which I don't remember. I don't remember having a project that has been this in depth on researching and trying to figure it out. How they did it. There's a way we would do it, but it's just different. Um, I don't know. I kind of like
Well, and that
Go ahead.
Well, that's one thing that I've really noticed with the two of you guys, is that I forget which airplane it was, Callum, but you were talking about how they painted the washers silver inside the wing, and you guys had to paint those silver, even though no one will see it without stabbing the fabric and being able to look at the washers inside the wing. You guys would know that it's wrong,
Yeah.
and you refuse to do it wrong, even though no one will notice it. And I think that's one of the interesting things about all of this, because to me, it's like, God, that's, I don't know how much work that is, but it seems like a pain in the butt. Like, just move on. It's gonna
that's
get
something
covered.
that's really interesting about all three of us, right now, is that we always like to learn. The three of us continuously like to learn, and that's what these kind of projects allow us to do. We restored. You're referring to a Stearman in that particular example, and we've restored 35 of those things, 40 of them, whatever. And you never really have the time. The customers can't afford for you to do all of the little details usually. They just want to get an airplane and go. And for the Stearman that we were doing for ourselves, Callan really got into looking at the drawings, the factory drawings, and seeing all these little details. And then when we took some old wings apart, we found silver paint underneath the washers is what it was on the wood. The paint was on the wood, and it's kind of messy, and it was sticking out from under the washer. And it was there so that an inspector walking by as they're building the wings in World War II, he could see that, yep, somebody put a coating underneath the washer. It's definitely protected. So the silver was kind of an identification mark to know that there was something underneath the washer that should be there. And so now, we did it on the airplane that Callan started restoring, and it's kind of a family project.
And I've definitely noticed as like not being able to really, like, you guys can hear an airplane and know exactly what kind it is.
Hazel's getting good at that
One just flew over. Yeah, plane. Yeah. But it's, for me, I'm not as like detail oriented with that stuff, but I do see some replicas or restorations that you guys have done and then somebody else has done, and I can tell, maybe it's because of what I'm used to, what I looked at for 5 years growing up, but I can tell that it's, oh, this is longer than it should be, this looks different, that looks different. You can tell the differences between, I guess, a Kimball restoration and another restoration from somebody else.
Well, we all have our own styles of doing things. So, and that's really something like Callan picked up on the same stuff, is that, you can kind of recognize the work that we've done in the past. And go back about 30 years ago, I'd covered half a dozen P-51 rudders with fabric. And I could walk down the line at Oshkosh and tell you which one I did and which one somebody else did. I couldn't tell you who else did the other ones, but I knew my work because I knew the way that I did things. And so then, now, there's a style that's mine. There's a style of doing things that's Callan's way of doing things. And we can recognize that. As far as what we try to do, we try to make those complementary or overlapping well enough to where if I were doing something and stopped and Callan picked it up, you wouldn't know that it changed hands on who was doing it.
But it came out of our shop.
Right. It's to our standard, our shop standard.
The Kimball standard, you
sure.
could say.
Yeah.
Which I think it's not just with fabrication, engineering, paint, or restoration that the Kimball standard kind of pushes through. I think we kind of do that with a lot of our stuff. Like Callan, the way you guys were building the flower beds, it had to be just right. The way that Callan helped me build my furniture in college had to be just right. I'm like, it's IKEA, just throw it together, it doesn't matter. But it had to be just right.
Landed.
Like everything has to be just right. Yeah, no, it's gone. Spoiler alert, it did not last. But yeah, so I think in every aspect or project that we take on, whether it be a hobby like this is a hobby, we're not getting paid to do this, it's just fun. But, we've all spent hours making sure that it's going to sound right and that we're not going to sound like people at a drive-thru on McDonald's. Yeah, I think it was the Wi-Fi on there. But
can you still hear us, Callan, or not?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, your video dropped off.
Your video went out.
I think our internet's getting slow here.
Yeah.
We're in the weeds.
Probably time to get some trees trimmed, something. Yeah. But, all this really comes down to my parents and my grandparents and things like that. That's really, so many things, are passed down. And one thing that my parents passed down to us was a work ethic that I think is why we do things the way that we do it. It's just the way it is. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, inside your family, you go like, you're being lazy. Why'd you do that? You should do better. But then, somebody else is going to look at what you do and go, oh wow, that's so cool, or it's where it's at. Yeah. And then we might look at somebody else's stuff and go, man, I sure wish we could do that. I wish we could reach that level. But that same person might turn around and look at ours and go, I wish we could reach that level. So it's all in perspective and what you're looking for. And there's the things that seem to be important to us in the work that we do and the type of work that we do. And there might be something, a slightly different set for somebody else of goals or targets that you try to hit. But obviously everything is airworthy, everything's safe, everything's really pretty. That's the easy part. But the hard part is what should be the end result. We don't know. How do you get there? So we spend a lot of time having to invent ways. I won't say invent ways. We have to go and discover how they did things, understand how things were done in the time, what tools they were using. We don't have to use those same tools. I mean, in some cases we don't. But we need to understand it. It's kind of like, for me, is going through college in engineering, you take, 10 math classes. And then when you finally get to the end, like Calc 3, they go, that stuff you learned before, you don't have to do it that way. You can just kind of do this and it gets you the result. But you have to have that history lesson. That none of that, the easy answer, the easy shortcut way, I say shorthand method of getting things done doesn't make sense if you don't understand the context. You can't be a stenographer and not know what the language is that you're recording. And for us, that's really what we do. We have to dig back, figure out what it's supposed to be, how to make it, how to make the tool to make it. And really at that point, it becomes how many times do you have to make the part to get the one you want to keep? And you might make 3 to keep 1. But that's how
I think that was the main reason we wanted to start this little podcast hobby project, is because a lot of the end results, we take it to Sun and Fun or we take it to Oshkosh and everybody's, oh, it's gorgeous, it's so pretty. You get a pretty plaque and then you go home and you probably, won't see the plane, like you said, for a few years, if at all.
Or the plaque, because we don't own the airplane.
Yes, yeah.
Right, it goes with the customer. That's another key point to make, is that we do have some projects that are ours, but everything that we do and how we make a living is not doing something on speculation and then hope to sell it later. It's all, we're restoring these aircraft for a client. And what we're trying to do is our job is to make their dream with that particular project come true. And then, we get to see it, we get to enjoy it. And I've often said in the past that, for me, it's the journey getting there. Once the airplane flies and we do that last little check, then that's it. For me, I'm ready. I'm already on to the next project, because I don't I don't sit there and mess around with these things just to try to hopefully to go for a ride or get to fly it. That's not why I'm doing it. It's this whole discovery and archaeological dig through history to figure out how all this stuff was done, get it done, make it, that kind of thing. So some other people might have another reason.
Yeah, and sometimes like even just a project that we did in the past can bring other stuff into it. Like the steering we did for Dave Christians. We did the airplane 2012, 15, I don't know. It was before Clint. So it's at least 12 years ago. And I had a call from the guy a couple days ago, yesterday. I guess it was yesterday. He flew that airplane a month ago and wants us to rig his airplane so it flies as good as that one. Because he knew he said I'd flown 24 Stearmans, and it was the best flying Stearman I'd ever flown. But it was the first time I'd flown a Kimball Stearman. So I want to fly more like a Campbell Stearman, even though it's not.
Well, and that's what, like with a lot of these projects, I think I remember, like when, I don't think I was too little, but, and I asked you, Dad, what's your favorite part of building an airplane? And, as a kid, you think of, I love the paint or the design, like come up with some big elaborate, it's just so beautiful. And your answer was just a very Kevin answer. It was when it flies away and never comes back. When it's gone. That's my favorite part is when it's gone, because that means that everything's good, it's safe, it's over, and we can go to the next one. So it's kind of like a graduation type deal with it.
Yeah, one of Dad's geographically, we're in Florida, so the southeast corner of the United States. So one of Dad's sayings, what has been for a long time, they look the best headed northwest. Because just about every one of our projects is going to go northwest. We do have a couple of clients that were in South Florida, so it didn't work out to that phrase, but for the most part, looks best heading northwest.
Over the last 40 years, there's only been half a dozen that have gone south of us.
Right.
Maybe half a dozen.
Well, and I think that's why, I think it's good that we found this platform to actually talk about it, because like I was saying, you guys spend, sometimes 10 years on a project. You finally take it somewhere. Maybe you take it to an air show, or maybe you don't, but it's gone. And then mainly, like with these stories that we've heard of, we had to find these blueprints and the plans, and we had to figure stuff out. That's usually told at the dinner table, or when we're, like talking in the car on a long drive. That's stuff that we discuss between, within the family and with some friends, but they're really interesting stories. Even the historical aspect, plus all of the bumps that you guys are going to inevitably hit along your project. You run out of this one specific wood because there are no trees yet, and you have to wait for the trees to grow back. Really right. Just like obscure issues that nobody really hears about. They see the beginning, and then they kind of see the end, and they're like, dang, that's pretty. All right, let's go to Warbirds now, and then they don't, so it's a cool platform to be able to talk about it. It's not...
Yeah, it's hard to explain 7,000 or 8,000 man hours with 30 photographs in a magazine.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. I mean, matter of fact, we were at dinner Monday, right, Cal, with Wade and James.
Yeah, Monday.
And Wade says, we were talking about whatever it was, and it was really about an airplane that they're interested in that we touched when I was 14 years old, and he said, who's writing all this shit down? And I said, funny you should ask, because Katie had the idea that we need to do a podcast. And so some of this stuff is going to get recorded in some way, shape, or form. But, we're not making a book.
Yeah. Nobody's got time for that. We talk constantly. So at least we can talk into a microphone. But right. I think writing, it'll be one of those projects we never get to. Just because writing sometimes is
chapter.
The worst.
And we never even get to write.
Chapter. Yeah.
Chapter.
Yeah.
I fell asleep at chapter.
Yeah.
I don't read.
I was going to say, I was like, Callan would pass out just reading his own writing. So
I open a book, feel for the thick pages that have pictures, look at the pictures, put the book on the shelf.
Right.
Done.
if it doesn't have pop-up, if it's not a pop-up, we're not interested.
No.
Or
If
a
it's
parts
if it's not a parts breakdown or a structural repair manual or something like that, he's all about that. And our drawings, he'll sit there and he can remember that, on this particular drawing, it lists on a Stearman, for example, there's 30 different kinds or 15 different kinds of Stearman, and it's got all check marks for which one. Oh, I know that particular piece that he's got on his, that should be on an A model, not on a B model. He's got that wrong. But all that's locked into his memory, where I don't bother with that kind of stuff. That's why it's cool that he does.
Not to brag, but I can name all the presidents' names in order. So
cool.
Just like tooting my own horn here, but it's not knowing that a screw is wrong on an airplane, but I learned it in 4th grade, steel trap. So
I can count to 10 in Spanish. You taught me that. That's about all I know.
I taught you that? That's funny. Neen taught us to count
After I
French.
took Spanish.
Yeah. Oh, after. Well.
Yeah.
Well, But yeah, so basically this whole podcast is going to be us, my dad and Callan talking about projects that they've worked on and me asking dumb questions and maybe sprouting in with a random history fact that no one knows and no one cares to know, but I happen to know it anyway. So we hope you guys enjoy it, and if you don't bully us. You can email literally anybody else. So hang on, and we're hoping to get some episodes out every week, and for it to be pretty interesting for you guys, and as long as it stays fun for us. So stay tuned.